Hello and welcome to Bust and Beyond with your host Robin Hayhurst. In this podcast, Robin will introduce guests that have known failure and want to share their story about how they got through it and what happened next. This will make you learn how to see things from a new perspective and avoid making the same mistakes. Please welcome Robin Hayhurst.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Bust and Beyond podcast. We're joined today by Gavin Coyle. I was on Gavin's podcast not long ago, actually. It was days, and he very kindly said he'd come back and come onto my podcast. So welcome, Gavin.
Robin, I'm very excited to have a call with you today, and thanks for joining us on I'm Gaffer last week. It was a great conversation, and I'm looking forward to this one.
Yeah, I think it's my opportunity to put some questions to you. So, which I suddenly realised at the end of the podcast, I didn't know that much about you, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to kind of, delve into what you're all about and why you started the podcast, really. So,
no problem.
I can detect from your accent, as I've already worked out, you're Irish. What brought you over here, or are you over here? Do you live in Ireland still?
So, I've always worked in the UK and Ireland. I've any career move I've made, it's always been Ireland and the UK. So at the moment I live in Ireland. I'm married to Aisling with two kids 10 and 12. I should get that right. And so I'm in London every 2 to 3 weeks, meeting clients and obviously doing the podcast because we do it in studio, as you know.
You do, yeah. And it's quite a nice studio as well, actually. So, and the coffee was
very fancy.
The coffee was good. my coffee's good as well, but you can't taste it from there. So.
No. I enjoy it. It's great fun. I'm sure we're going to get into that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So health and safety is your background, as I understand it. What brought you into that? Yeah. What is your how did you come into it? How did you come into the industry?
So left school and went straight into construction and was working in the drywall industry as a labourer into plasterers, and obviously serving the guys with plasterboards and all the rest that they need to get done. And that was Hewlett Packard were coming into Europe at the time, and they were using Dublin as a base. So it was their first sort of toe into the European market. And we didn't know it, or I didn't know it at the time, but there was a massive American shift towards Europe in terms of using Europe as a land base, and especially Ireland, where they seen the tax advantages, obviously, and they were getting attracted. So large multi-scale operations, pharmaceuticals, tech, anything big coming from the States where they needed to have a land base, they were using Ireland as that opportunity. So one of the things that they brought with them was their own models in terms of building out large hyperscale projects, and safety was part of that. However, in Ireland, there was the Safety Act, which was mature enough, but it was back in the 60s was the Factory Act, and then 1989 was the first kind of real act where they kind of, put a more emphasis on safety. But there still wasn't a dedicated health and safety requirement on projects. And the American guys brought in that model to say, look, if we're going to give you a contract, you're going to have a full-time safety representative. And so one day I got pulled into a meeting and I was told, you're the safety guy. And I said, I know nothing about safety. And we know nothing about safety either. So we're all on the same level. So I said, look, I'm going to need to get some training. He says, yeah, we'll send you on some training, but you're our safety officer for this company. And the company was expanding at a very fast rate at that time because Intel had come into Ireland as well. So I did won contracts with Intel, GlaxoSmithKline Beecham, Warner Lambert, which is now Pfizer's. So IBM, the list is endless in terms of the scale and the opportunity that was presented to all these companies. And the company I was working for was at the forefront of that. But they were also in Europe and they were in UK. And so very quickly, I was sort of outsourced, if you like, to the whole group to manage safety across all of the sites that was active. So didn't really get much time to think about, or didn't really have a mentor. But within the first year and a half, I had problems on a particular project where there was a lot of safety incidents, and we were concerned about that particular project. And I was trying to place a specific emphasis on that project. And I was on the job one day and I got a bang on the cabin door when we had a meeting, and we went straight out, and one of our young lads had fallen down a hole head first and was bleeding very badly from the head. So we had to pull him out of the hole And I went with him in the ambulance, and he kicked and screamed and fought for his life, but he died the next day from head injuries. So, ding-a-ling-a-ling, 17, 18, 19 years of age, wake up call for Gavin. This is more than just paperwork and personalities. This is real. I never felt that the guy was going to die. I knew he was struggling, but I thought it was just, him sort of dealing with a cut in the head, but it turned out to be more trauma than that. So dealing with the family, dealing with the health and safety inspectorate, dealing with the aftermath, dealing with the court cases, dealing with the prosecutions. We didn't get prosecuted, but it didn't matter. It was on your doorstep and it was one of your guys. And I've seen a lot of great initiatives and drive for health and safety officers, but then I've seen that wean off over a period of time where people start feeding themselves back into their normal routines. And I'm not saying that they were unsafe, but they weren't as focused as when a fatality happens. And I've seen that even to the current day when we investigate fatalities, that there's a great rush for everybody to do more than what they've been doing. But then they settle back. And in around the same time, my brother had just finished his leaving cert and had left school, and they were at a beachside down in the west coast of Ireland, 9 of the classmates, and a freak wave came in and swept them all out to sea. And 4 died, including my brother. 1 was resuscitated on the beach. So 3 died, and one of them was my brother. So between the fatality on site and then the brother, I had 2 sort of personal and a career trauma in around the same period. So it was kind of like, wakey, Gavin, this is what you have to stomach if you're going to stick with this career. So I did, and I'm glad I did. And today I have a couple of successful safety businesses that provide consulting to energy companies, utility companies, but we also outsource safety professionals.
So, losing your brother, lots of people have come on to the podcast that have had horrendous things happen in their careers, life, and it's one of those things that it's such a difficult thing to deal with. I expect. Can't say that from my own kind of experience. Does it make you stronger?
It's a great question. I didn't realise I was carrying that emotion with me as strong as it was until later on in life, actually. It took about 15 years before a penny dropped at me that I was making emotional, personal decisions in the business world that was actually related to that trauma. I suppose I would have looked at myself as a sort of a bull in a china shop, go, and get it done and, scale the business. Everything was, 110 miles an hour. And then when I looked at it, wherever there was conflict that arose within that chaos, and I look back at it now and it was chaos in terms of business sense, my approach is totally different today in terms of what it was then. I'm not the bull in the china shop. I'm not the, guy that takes things personal. I'm very much, it is what it is. And I'm more empathetic than ever I was. But I've always been that way. But in terms of seeing things from a helicopter view rather than, going toe to toe with people, that day is gone. And it took a long time to figure that one out. I didn't probably see at the time, you don't really have counselling. You don't even think of counselling back in those days, even for the fatality in the workplace, like to go and see your man screaming in the ambulance for half an hour and in the A&E, like there was no talk of sitting down with somebody to offload that back at the time. And even today, I don't know that there's probably enough discussions about supporting people in the safety industry with regards to trauma and people around that. Because I know the site manager really took that bad, because obviously he was the site manager for us on that job. It wasn't his fault, but we both knew that the job was not going well. And it leads me into even today, like there was contractual arrangements in place that, the discussion that I was having with the managing directors and the directors of the company was, well, Gavin, we're tied into this contract. Can you do the best you can to make sure that we're doing the right things and people are going to be going home safe? And the same conversation was had with that site manager because I wasn't there full time. So, I suppose to answer your question in short, yeah, I'm in a much better place and I've taken a lot more learnings from that as I got older and maturer. But in the heat of the battle, I don't think you know where your cards are going to fall. And some people, go down the addiction routes and stuff like that. I'm sure everybody has their reasons for turning into different paths, but it's definitely a subject that needs to be focused in on and managed, regardless of whether it's career or personal.
Yeah, I think the Lighthouse charity do a lot of work around that. The construction industry charity for mental health, and there are two people representing that charity have been on my podcast. So it's really interesting to hear what they're doing, because I didn't know what they did. I've been in the industry my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. There are people out there. It's just making sure, like I said, I wasn't aware, making sure other people are aware that the help is there. I think that's quite important. I mean, I remember as a young lad, having a near-death experience on site. And it did teach me something. And it can, as far as health and safety is concerned, I'm not that concerned about the paperwork. It's not the thing that I look for when I'm on a building site. It's how safe people are. It's their kind of real physical safety. So I was down a trench fitting some acros to some trench props, and the sides caved in. I was 17, 18. Very, very good digger driver. Put his bucket over me. Saved my life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he died a few years ago. But, that kind of thing does happen. You think, wow, I couldn't see what I was doing wrong. There's better ways of doing it. So, and now I get really cross with people. This is the only time that I shout is if I see someone down a trench without protection, because I know how quickly things can change.
Yeah.
So every second it counts to get them out of that trench. And I've seen that a few times because people don't understand, and it is a big killer on building sites.
Massive, yeah. I've met digger drivers who explain to me that the process of as soon as they see someone being covered over, how they operate the machines, and it blows my mind. Even one guy was kind of saying to me, like, for the toolbox talks, if a guy does get buried, make sure he puts his hands over his nose and stays there while I, get the bucket in and get that message across in the toolbox talk. And I'm going, oh my God.
Well, at that stage, a few broken legs doesn't matter. It's about surviving. So, it's quite an important area. And, when you've worked on site and you've kind of been there and done it, it does kind of hammer it home how dangerous it is and how simple little things. And kids are kids. We've had a lot of young people in the industry jumping off scaffold into sand.
Yeah.
Great fun until there's a padlock or a scaffold pole in the sand for some reason, which you get.
Yeah. 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 There was a very well-known case, and it doesn't have to be a normal construction site. It can be anywhere. I've dealt with situations where I was advising a transportation company, and they had a leak in the roof, and it was coming up to Christmas, so they had a lot of stock in, and it was dangerous, obviously, in terms of the commercial reality of losing stock. And they asked me what to do, and told them what to do, whatever, and they went a different direction and took on a guy that wasn't suitable for the job, and he fell through the roof down to his death. And talking to the owner of the business and the guys that were involved with that, they didn't do that recklessly. It wasn't that it was just, they didn't think that it was that something could happen like that it was so it could so easily happen, that a fella that is doing roof work for the last 30 years, and you took his word on that, because they didn't do proper due diligence on him. And I suppose there's a conversation between doing too much and going overkill, and then sort of having a medium ground. I like the medium ground, because I think health and safety should be an integrated system within the business, and it shouldn't be sort of a bolt-on. And I have a lot of case studies where I've proven to increase the profit of a business by bringing in models that I've brought into certain companies that actually produces money for the business using safety. And, I don't think owners think laterally enough in terms of how safety can actually improve the bottom line.
I must say, I listened to your podcast. See, I went back and listened to your podcast. And you had a guest on talking about the situation where there's a scaffold all the way. They put a scaffold all the way around for, I think it's a roofer or some repairs or something. And the roofer came in and went, "That's in my way. I was going to do it off a ladder."
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
I mean, you've got to change people's approach. You've got to change their mentality. You've got to change the way they approach health and safety. And I think it is so important. And, lots of accidents happen out of ignorance, which, by the way, in law is no defence. But even so, we need to educate ourselves around these things, what is dangerous and what isn't, and how to do something safely.
Yeah, Again, I keep on going back to I have a business hat on me when I look at safety. I don't have a safety officer blinkered view of, get down off that ladder. I'm kind of thinking, are we employing the right people? Are we paying the people the right money? Do we have enough money and resources to buy the right equipment? Like, they're conversations that are, probably don't get enough air because the safety officer is just dealing with a firefighting situation or reactive situation or the culture of a company, and therefore they have to accept that this is the way the company operates and that they don't buy scaffolding for a certain reason. And if you don't buy scaffolding, that's not the end of the world for me. Is it safe? Is it fit for purpose? Is there competent people using it? Can you trust that people will use it in the right way? They're the type of things that I like business owners to zone in on. I'm not here to sort of devalue safety. I obviously have a high standard of safety, but I do believe that you can make safety work for you if everybody is open and honest and have a discussion about, well, who are we and what do we stand for and what does that look like in terms of safety, and how do we put a budget together for that fits with the overall company so that we're not seen as reckless and that everybody buys into, who we are as a company. And you will attract more quality staff when people see that you have these type of values within your business.
Yeah, I talk about branding a lot, and branding to me isn't your logo. It isn't kind of what appears on a signboard. It's how people see you from the outside of the company.
Yeah.
And I bang on about hard hats a lot, not because people get hot on the head. There's lots of things around hard hats that are really important, and I've found that been important. One is it looks professional. People expect you on a building site to wear a hard hat. Okay?
Yeah.
That's not the reason why you wear them, but that's another reason to wear them. The other thing is, if you can't get your lads to wear a hard hat, if they're going to ignore you in that, when it's black and white, they should be wearing it. It's for their own benefit. There's every excuse I've heard under the sun. We've got chin straps, got different types of hard hats, all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Someone's doing that. What else aren't they doing? What else are they ignoring you about?
Again, I would challenge that, and I know where you're going with that, but my ethos on that is let people be part of the decision-making process. And if, I've had situations, for example, on a site where you might have lay-in grid ceiling being installed, and it's just next to near impossible to actually wear a hard hat when you're, as you know yourself, installing. Or it could be plasterboard ceiling. It doesn't have to be lay-in grid ceiling. The dangers with the lay-in grid ceiling is that the guys are on the scaffold and then they start using the ceiling to sort of move the scaffold along with them, and not knowing that there might be a raised floor tile removed or there might be a variance in the floor space. But if we start getting into the scaffold or start getting into the hard hat conversation, we lose the focus on the scaffold being moved along in a dangerous way.
I totally agree with you there. I don't disagree with that at all. My point is when you're meant to wear a hard hat, so many people don't. Whereas in a situation where there's no risk to injury to the head, so for instance, if you're on a site where you're block paving and there's no machines around you and there's no risk and it's a hot day, it's a stupid thing to wear a hard hat. You're just going to overheat, you're not going to have a good time of it, and you're bending over all the time.
Again, but I'm sorry to crash you, you can get caps, these fancy caps now that warehouse logistics guys buy, and they're still kind of within reason, that they mightn't stack up in terms of the rigidity or the constructability for a building site. But if it's outside and you still want to have a brand, and some safety officers just will have zero tolerance, and they say, no, I need you to wear a hard hat. So, well, this is a hard hat. It's actually with a cap on it to keep the sun off my neck or face or whatever it is. I'd like people to be more. I think what I'm trying to say is that there is no right or wrong or rigid model. I think there's a model for every culture, and as you say, brand. And it's back to that conversation of who are you? Who do you represent? What way are you guys comfortable in working and learning together?
Again, totally agree with you. But I think that, the situations where people have to wear a hard hat, they should be wearing something. The situations where it's flexible, it needs to be a policy. Not just you can wear it, you won't wear it, So if you're inside a building, there's no risk and you're doing something that is, difficult to have a hard hat on, you just write it into your policy so that everyone knows where they stand on it.
That's 100%. And that's where the issue arises, is that once you write it down, it becomes fact. And then because it becomes fact, then you need to have a officer to enforce the policy. And, it's not all black and white. So, make the policy specific to the culture and to the way you want to act and perform. And yeah, where there's no tolerance, there's no tolerance. But,
I've come
give
across that
people the empowerment
many
within
times
themselves to say, well, look, the conversations I want to have is that co-workers hold each other accountable, and that they're not relying on the charging foreman or the supervisor to come in and catch them, or the safety officer to come in and catch them. If that's your culture, well, then your culture needs to change.
Yeah, they have an external consultant coming in once a month. Everything gets cleared up for that day. Everyone tries, hardest to make sure hard hats are on and stuff like that. It doesn't reflect the actual culture of the business.
No.
And they're seen as the enemy.
Yeah.
And I've always said, a good health and safety officer is part of the team. He's trying to come up with solutions that work for everybody. And is there to help, not there to be kind of the policeman.
No, well, but see, the issue really, if you want to get into the weeds of it, the issue is there's nobody at a health and safety level at the boardroom table, or very little corporates have health and safety at the boardroom table. It's everybody but a health and safety professional that's at the boardroom level. And, so I wrote a book, Workplace Safety on a Budget, to try and sort of get people thinking about how health and safety can actually be a profit center.
Sorry, so was that just a plug for your book? Do you want to just hold it up so we can actually see it? You're going to plug it.
Yeah. Workplace Safety on a Budget, sold over 100 copies. It's the number one category in its category.
Yeah, I'll have a read and do a review on it.
I'll actually send you the book. I'd hate to see you spending a few pounds. I think it's only 10. It's actually free on Kindle. It's free on Kindle. I'll actually send you the link.
Okay. But yeah.
But no, 100%. Like we went into one business, and there was guys working in trenches, telecom business, 50 million turnover. And we were like talking to the guys, and the guys were saying, yeah, I was employed as an overhead linesman, but I'm working in the trenches. And I said, well, why are you doing that? Like, and this is the same for about 100 guys in that company. And they all said the same thing. We were told we were on a framework with a government contract that we're going to get 20 years out of this. We're going to get our pension out of it. We're going to get more money. And, it's an easier job, because it was an easier job. It was less competency involved in doing the job in the trench. But because it was a broadband job and it was this big rollout, they were guaranteed money, and they were just said, look, well, fair enough, we'll take it. Whereas I looked at it and said, no, you've got fantastic people in front of you here. Why are you not outsourcing this to somebody that's more specialist, that's maybe smaller, obviously, business, that can focus in on this, and that's what their core expertise is. And then it took 5 months to change the board's view, where they eventually said, yeah, we'll go out to tender. Because I was saying to them, you have all the knowledge, you know how much equipment it takes, you know how many people it takes, you know how much money it costs you to do this job. You've all the facts and data around this. So when you see these tenders coming through, you'll know how much more margin you're going to make out of this. And obviously you're going to be able to release your staff. And by releasing your staff, you're able to go back to your existing client base, who are all blue chip, and say, by the way, all those projects in the pipeline that you have stacked up, we now have the capacity to deal with those, because we've obviously taken these guys out of the trenches. But the bias within the boardroom was, we don't want to let anybody in here that might actually cozy up to the client and maybe take the client away from us. We don't want relationships being shifted from our guys over to this other contractor or whatever else. And that's just nonsense, because the client trusts you and you have the relationship. And by even doing this, you create more time and space for you to have better conversations with your client, because you're having a higher level conversation with your clients, because you're dealing with the higher level stuff. Whereas, they were talking about trenches, which is no disrespect, but, it wasn't at the level of who their value and who their mission and who their culture was and who their brand was. And so when I talk about, increasing profits due to safety, their profits soared. And I still speak to the directors, and they were like, yeah, it's just, I can't believe that we were just so tunnel visioned that we didn't think laterally and say, yeah, we could actually make more money out of this from a safety perspective, because now we have outsourced the focus of the trenches to a safe and reputable company. And now we're obviously increasing the core competency of the business by releasing all the staff to do what they were good at, which is overhead lines, which is very niche, very specific, and very competency based.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think also the industry as a whole struggles. It struggles with being seen as professional. And I think part of the problem with that is social media.
Yeah.
If you just look at anything on television that is about construction. So Grand Designs, Grand Design is a great example. What project doesn't go over budget?
Yeah.
So we're not seen as very professional, whereas we can be really professional. And I think health and safety thrown into that mix is really important because we should know and be competent enough to go about things in a safe way, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite important. We've kind of covered how you got into the industry. What I'm really interested in, with my other hat on, why podcasting?
Why podcasting? It's a good question. So my core business, the group, if you like, the parent company, as I said, works in the energy, utility, wind energy space, consulting and outsourcing professionals to manage those high risk, if you will, like projects. But the cost base to me and to the clients is premium at that level. And so I was always getting tapped or people ringing me going, can you help us out? And because of the size of the companies, my cost base they just couldn't afford it. So general builders, even principal contractors, tier one companies, when they seen their rates, they were like, no, we can't pay that. I know. So it's not that I'm pocketing all this money. Our model was to put more money into our people that we value that work for us and give them the lion's share of the money, and we just take a percentage fee off the top of that. But premium people for premium clients in highly regulated industries was where we found our niche, and we stuck at that, and we only do health and safety. So I couldn't fix, if you like, and I'm not trying to fix it, but I couldn't find a model for the small to medium enterprise. And I genuinely did feel for a lot of the guys, because I grew up in that career environment where people were just struggling and working hard and working mad hours. So I was saying to myself, how do I, do something in that? So about a year and a half ago, I set up Gavin-Coyle.com, and I said to myself, right, what are the fundamentals that a new construction owner, somebody breaking into construction, or even an existing construction owner that might be struggling with the health and safety on what exactly do they need? What do they need? And so I got all my team of safety professionals together and said, what do they really, really need? So we said, right, these are all the documents that they need. So it's right, let's give it to them for free. And everybody looked at me as if I was mad. I said, no, give it to them for free. I said, they're downloading it off the internet. They're getting it off Facebook groups or WhatsApp groups. Let's put it in a nice professional manner, and let's bring them into the business of, a centralized professional model. And let's give them free safety courses as well. They're not competency courses, but they're 20-minute certified courses to try and help their workers, and maybe in the future when they want to get more sort of mature about their business and they want to get more scalable about their business, we'll be there for them because we were the first point of contact to help them out in a free model that they can come into a paid version, which is kind of it wouldn't be a premium, but it would be something that could fit into their budgets and pockets when they are ready to mature and go up the ladder. And so we set up Gavin-Coyle with that view. So we've over 1,000 templates that we've built from scratch, everything from checklist inspections, RAMS documents, construction plans, you name it, safety policies, everything is there in the system. We've created an ecosystem of supply chain. So we're working with suppliers of health and safety equipment and safety services, and they're now offering discounted rates for that community. So anyone that signs up will get discounted rates for that as well. We've got safety alerts. We've got a safety knowledge hub of all that's, I don't understand what a principal contractor does. Okay, you go into the safety hub in their dashboard and there's everything they need to know in terms of education, educating themselves. So we have a load of really good stuff in there. But I suppose from the podcast point of view, it was, okay, I know a lot of these guys in this industry that are struggling. I'm hearing a lot of the horror stories I need to reach out more into that community and learn more from people. And I want to give back even further if I can by bringing on the likes of yourself and other experts in their own field that have lived the experience and they can give back some nuggets of, helpful information and tools and tips that they can bring back into their own business and, bolt on to the success of their business and help these guys out because, it's a very vulnerable position that a lot of them are in. I would suggest if you even look back at it, most of them are, there's more of them that are in trouble than not in trouble in terms of financial risk. And safety will get hit by default on that. So there's a natural progression between both. But rather than coming on and having a podcast full on about safety, I love talking to business owners about their struggles and their achievements. And everybody wants to tell their story. And I'm the Gaffer was kind of like something that just came out of our heads and said like, yeah, I'm the Gaffer. Because, everything stops with me kind of a scenario. And so that was the intention. But I was never dreaming as a podcaster or as, this sort of TikTok sensation, as my kids say to me now.
No, I do totally get that. I think I read a book, and I'm terrible at names. Alex Hormozy. It's basically, I think it's the book is called $100 million Deal. And he talks about if you get out there and you give everything away for free, not on a one-to-one basis, but, that's a good thing. A percentage of those people are going to come back and go, actually, I want more.
Yeah.
And most won't, but they'll gain something from it. And I actually think that's a really good way to conduct business. I'm quite new to the coaching space. So when I first kind of came into the coaching space, I went on a few courses, not to learn about construction, to learn a little bit about delivering coaching and to learn about selling. Because, I've been a developer. Selling houses was always easy for me. Just build a really good house and people will buy it. It was that simple.
Yeah.
Selling construction was about tendering. Selling services is brand new to me. So, and I had so much bad advice because the industry standard is don't solve people's problems. Don't give it away for free. This is what you do, and
hold your cards close to your chest.
Yeah, hold your cards close to your chest, And I've got a digital course at the moment, and I'm on the verge of going, look, just have it, just do it because I want people to get some benefit from it.
Yeah,
and it just seems that there's a barrier to people paying for it, even if it's £10. There's a barrier to people paying for it. But then I don't want 500 people to sign up and not use it, so it's kind of that kind of thing, but. I'm a huge believer. I want to make a difference to the industry passionately.
Yeah.
I want to improve what I'm doing. I mean, I can tell you now that, clients I took on 2.5 years ago through when I first started, I did not service well.
Yeah.
And I'm learning every day. I know about the industry. I know the mistakes I made. I know what people should do, but it's trying to get that point over to them and make sure that they do it in the right way, in the right order.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of bad advice out there. And I think this whole idea of giving stuff away and just kind of giving value is really important, actually. And I think the people that come, that stick out, the people that are, not in with the crowd will do that because they're not afraid. I mean, it's taken me, I won't even tell you how many years, just say over 30 nowadays because it's too many. But it's taken over 30 years to learn what I know in life and in business. I can't give that away in an hour, 2 hours, 5 hours, 20 hours. I just cannot teach that.
Yeah.
In the short space of time, but I can give people stuff they can do and things they can improve, and there's no secret to it. There's no secret to running a business. It's consistency. It's kind of having systems in place. It's being scalable. It's understanding what you're doing and it's servicing your clients. That's it. There we are. You've just had all my value. But that's, that's what it's about. And it's, that's really important. So I love the fact you're giving this stuff away for free.
Yeah, and it's all the legal documentation, the safety policy in Ireland. It's a safety statement. It's the risk assessment templates. But we got so stuck into it that we even started doing construction plans for carpenters, construction plans for bricklayers. All of the good stuff that we had built up over the years, 20 odd years, it was the guys got a great buzz out of it because they were doing this as a side project for me. Yeah, I was paying them to do this for me. But, it's gone into more and more and more stuff. And now even some of the guys are saying, by the way, I have a mate who's a builder and he's after signing up, and he said this is brilliant, the best thing that ever happened to him, and he wants to do videos. So we're now sending out video recording guys out to the building sites to start creating more courses. So like, oh, here's a ladder, how to use a ladder. And, it's not a certified course, but people don't have the demographic we're looking at. A lot of these guys are very time poor. And, when you talk about giving this stuff away for free, it's more probably because they're time poor as well, that they just don't have time to sit down with a consultant and go through the whole lot together. Just give it to me. Just tell me what I need and give it to me. They're in that sort of mindset. And, they don't want to pay much for it because they're not really putting a major value on it.
No, they're not. That's so important. It's about the value. I mean, I've designed my course, literally, it's 10, 15 minutes a unit because my attention span's not good. So, I know theirs isn't. So it's get as much value over to them as quickly as possible. Yeah. And I think that's really important. But it's time. Don't even get me started about our industry and the problems the smaller companies have, just answering the phone.
Yeah.
Just the simple stuff like, I'll call you back and calling you back.
Yeah.
If half the people, and I speak to hundreds of people, half the people don't ever call me back. Might be because they're completely not interested in talking to me. But then most industries, when they turn around and go, yeah, not interested, mate. Thanks, bye. Great.
Yeah.
Great result. Yeah. That's fantastic. I don't have to waste my time. They're not wasting their time. Let's move on.
Yeah. Or the classic, that's brilliant. And dive into it for the first couple of weeks and then, don't really want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
And then something else shiny over here, they'll pick.
The shiny. Yes. Yes. Even I'm guilty of that. So, the shiny objects thing, which is basically you sign up to everything and do nothing because you don't actually. It's a bit. I talk about that with social media with clients when they go, "We're going to use social media. We're going to use LinkedIn." Okay, that's a good idea. This is the way to use it. This is why I'd approach it. This is what you should do. Great. 2 weeks later, nothing's happened. We're giving it up. This is a 6 month to a year strategy. It's not going to work in 2 weeks. It's just no one's contacted us. We haven't got work from it.
Yeah, it doesn't. And then they poo-poo the whole thing and say, that doesn't work anyway. And I don't know why people would spend that money. That's stupid money. I suppose people don't think about the end in sight. What is the end result later on? And that is, as you say, a 2 year, could be a 2 year, could be a 3 year, could be a 6 month thing. Yeah. I like having those conversations, and we don't have enough of those conversations. So when a business owner does contact us, well, what do you want to achieve with us for you, and how does that look, and how much involved are you going to be in the process? And it might not be a fit. People might say, well, look, to be honest with you, I just want to get this sorted now, and that's where the free model comes in. We'll just take it for free then. Just take whatever you need for free. But in terms of if you take the paid version, I'll give you a safety manager with over 25 years experience at a 20,000 a year sort of cost model, and, put that into context in terms of the size of your business and the percentage of your investment in safety for your overall business. And if you're talking anywhere from up to 15 million, it's pittance, you know what I mean? But again, took a long time for me to figure out, how do you fit this model in such a way that it's not going to burn me and it's not going to destroy my guys' motivation and their passion to do this and help people as well. And there's going to be value on the table for both sides. And so it is a work in progress. So, I could be coming on your podcast in a couple of years' time and go, I had to bin that because it's just...
I speak to my clients and people want to be my clients and people that don't want to be my clients. Lots about health and safety. And what I often say is, look, you need an audit of your business at least once a year.
Yeah.
And then you need visits on site, monthly, 8 weekly, but, a regular visit on site, have that, that backing up. But your client pays, not you. You put it into your prelim. Don't think you've got to take it out your overhead and profit. It's a service you've got to offer.
Yeah. And I'm glad you said that.
And that's how you do it. And that's how you get to afford these things. Because you're more expensive than someone else doesn't mean you're not going to get the work. Yeah. As long as you've got a reason for being more expensive, you're giving things that other people aren't. So, it's like saying you'll never sell a Rolls Royce because Ford are on the market.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work like that. So if you give value, you're going to get work. And you're in a much better place than kind of trying to be the cheapest, which is, you can always be undercut by someone. And remember, the people that undercut you might not be in business in 2 years' time.
Yeah, I think I love that you said that as well, because like people just need to, if your model is to sort of beat a bull in the china shop and just, one project after another, like what's the sustainability of that approach in the future? Either you're going to end up with a health issue, you're going to have safety issues, you're going to have financial issues, or when the dust settles and things start, is a downturn, where are you in terms of the protection mechanisms that you've built up within your business? And it's something even for my own business that I'm always constantly checking myself on is, what does the future look like, and how am I ready for the next down curve or the next downturn, and what would the business look like in that model? And like through COVID, we were as busy as we ever were. And I'm not saying that, obviously health and safety was an issue for sites in general. Like, so obviously that was an indication of why we were busy. But like even the economy is going to be down. I'm constantly thinking about how strong and resourceful and what capacity have I got to continue to keep the same people what I have employed with us for the future, so that they know there's another 10, 15 years here with Gavin and what he does.
Yeah, and again, looking into the future is something that not a lot of company owners do. They don't look beyond the end of the month. We've got the cash to balance that. And that happens a lot. And I think the most successful companies I work with, they have something in common. They're not the cheapest.
Yeah.
But quality is the most important thing, whether it be the service they offer, the product they build. That's really important. And they're people orientated.
Yeah.
And when you see that as their key drivers, it's in all the companies I work with that are successful.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah. No, and I love what you're doing in terms of coaching side of things, because me and you had a great conversation about, looking at the financials and how you can help companies in terms of the stability of where they're at. And, even listening to the stories about how people measure their gross profit and net profit, and, how they get that so wrong. And then when the mirror is put up in front of them and say, well, by the way, that's not your gross profit. You can't put that into your gross profit. You've been putting that into your gross profit. And that's actually, if you actually knew the true value of it, you're actually losing money if you do that job, and I had a CEO on our podcast recently, and his background was health and safety. So it was an unusual one. That's why I brought him onto the podcast. It was like, here's a CEO that was a CEO of major companies, and now he stepped back and wanted to do safety. And he said, he says, like, I worked with DuPont, and DuPont's philosophy as well was to employ CEOs to go out and advise companies on health and safety, because, they're the ones that have seen it at that large scale. And he said, when I go on to a project or a construction site, people are trying to bring me around the floor space and showing me equipment and people. And I said, no, bring me into the office and show me your P&L. He says, well, as soon as I look at their P&L and the balance sheet, I'm saying to myself, this company's not doing well and they're in trouble, and safety is going to be a problem for them because of that. And it was refreshing to hear, because I'm the same mindset, is everything's connected. I suppose what I'm trying to say. And if you don't start creating this ecosystem, culture, interconnection of all the different parts of your business, so that you have momentum, and momentum gives you scale gives you success. But with success, you're going to have capacity, and the right capacity and the right metrics in place to measure and monitor that capacity, and the right people then to move forward with yourself. There's a lot of moving parts. And I think, it's all very well in the early stages, getting all these nice projects and having sort of the conversations, I'm after winning a £1 million project. But can you deliver that project? Do you have the capacity to deliver that project? Have you got the model set up in such a way that you can actually deliver that project? I'd rather see people saying, no, I can't take that project.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, that is such wise words. Turning work down is some of the most sensible things
you could ever
do. Yeah, and I think that's really important. And, seeing the kind of people I work with, the failure rate in the industry is towards 80%. There's 4,000 construction companies failed last year. It's huge. But, not that many people think to go and get help. And lots of them are in a situation now, they're going, we'll just work through this. We're going to throw everything at it. We're going to work through it. Or we're going to borrow money to get through it. Or we're going to, It's all right borrowing money, by the way. That's not a problem if it is once and you know where you're going and you've got a purpose for it. If you just borrow it to bail yourself out, you're going to end up in bigger problems and you'll end up going, having no choice but to close the company. But so many people just don't come and say, look, we'll get help. And I think this is why I started running the workshops, because I wanted, rather than just to be on Zoom and do things virtually, I wanted to offer something that was in person. People could speak to other business owners in their industry who ran companies exactly like theirs, who had the same problems. And that's been the big thing. And, people, I'm there to kind of do what I can do and to teach and to give solutions, but they also give themselves solutions and each other solutions. And
100%. And friendships out of that.
Yeah.
And, it's a lonely world without getting down into bringing the levels of down in terms of enthusiasm for the podcast here. But it is a lonely world that these guys are living, because they see more of a building site than they do of their family. And they're valuing that time in the evenings or the weekends to try and get that time back. So how do you shift their mindset to say, by the way, no matter what you're doing, you just give me 2 hours every week or 2 hours every month, and you're going to be in a peer-to-peer program where you're meeting like-minded people and you can share information that's actually going to make you come off and give you back time, make you come away from some of the stuff you're doing that's probably, by dollar value is not the best use of your time. And I love the fact that you've zoned in on that as well, is that, how do we shape this?
It's kind of shaped me as well, because I was doing I was offered a package, which was, I'll be honest, very honest here, because I'm learning as I go along myself and what's powerful and what works for people. But I did a package with 1 hour, twice a month, with a group of people, teaching them how to run a construction business. And it was great and it was going okay. And then I thought, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to run a workshop. And it just blew my mind how powerful that was. And it kind of made such a big difference. It made the package of 2 hours, 1 hour, twice a month seem like a bit obsolete, which I've got rid of it. People sign up for the same price now. They get a day's workshop and they get an accountability call in a group so that everyone knows, gets to know each other and gets to support each other. And it's just changed everything.
As I said to you, you light up when you talk about your workshops, and I definitely have to attend one of those workshops because it sounds like, no, it's brilliant. And I think the marketing people, this, digital marketing and the way the world is, we come in with all this flowery language and it doesn't hit home. It doesn't really hit home to the guys that are struggling, or the guys that are sort of small to medium enterprises up to 15 million. That type of language doesn't sit with them. They don't understand. It's not that they understand it. That's as soon as people start talking into this flower language, it's like they just turn off and go, look, this is another, charlatan trying to sell me a coaching course or whatever else it is. But it's a workshop. I'm going to pull you all together. We're all going to learn together. We're going to learn and grow. We're going to be straight and upfront with each other. We're going to be transparent in a safe and controlled environment. And that's going to happen for a couple of hours every month. And all you have to do is dedicate yourself to do that Thursday evening gig. And, all we ask is that you, number one, turn up, participate, and maybe give back when, you've learned what you've learned, that other incoming members or incoming attendees can learn from the same mistakes or the same lessons that you've got.
The workshops are actually a day. So we start at 10. Start with a bacon roll. That's a homage to the industry. A lunch is laid on so everyone can have a good chat, and then we finish about 5. Yeah. And there's normally a networking evening if people want to attend that afterwards, so they can just have a good chat and kind of talk about what they've learned. So they're a great day. I do them once a month, and they're a different subject each time. Some of the subjects have been so powerful, I'll be rerunning them. So I will be doing 2 a month at some stage just to rerun the really powerful ones. But people keep coming back.
You're getting teams out of that as well, I'm sure. You're getting sort of topics that probably you weren't aware that are probably topical to them, but not topical. You probably thought, well, this is what they need. But then when you start talking to them, you go, oh, I actually never thought of that.
Well, we have guest speakers as well. So we have people that come along and talk, because as a business owner, you haven't got time to look at 4 or 5 different bits of software to see if that's going to help you. You get someone to come along to one of these meetings you're going to anyway and give you half an hour on their software and why that's right for you.
Yeah.
And then listen to other people ask questions about it and put it through its paces. I mean, you can't buy that.
Yeah. I'd love to see the dynamic of that, because I've been involved with situations where I was involved with an entrepreneurs organization, which is an international organization, and I was a board member. And I did get a lot out of it in a peer-to-peer environment. Forget about all the others, there's bits and pieces around it. But the big thing was a forum. I mean, you had to turn up for a one-day forum every month and share with like-minded business owners your personal and your career issues or successes or lows within the past month, and sort of give a brief. And then no one was allowed to, it was a safe environment, so you weren't obviously bringing that information out, but nobody was allowed to give you advice unless they had a lived experience within the same topic, whether that's personal or career. And that's very powerful. Like you didn't have to have flip charts and, PowerPoint presentations and stuff like that. You had sort of real people sitting around together going, yeah, I've had the same experience and here's what I've done. You can't buy that.
It saves time, it saves money, and it gives you perspective, which you wouldn't get otherwise. So peer-to-peer is a huge thing for me. I think it's really important. I think if I'd belonged to some peer-to-peer groups when I was running my business, then it would have been so powerful for me.
Yeah.
And to be then taught as well. And, workshops are about creating something for yourself in the workshop rather than just sit there listening.
Yeah.
So that's really powerful. Anyway,
but it's the power of collaboration though, Robin, because the industry is so fragmented and people are working in silos. Even if you get a small group of people together to work in the power of collaboration, say, okay, by the way, we have a common probably team here. We're all struggling with material prices for timber or whatever it is. Okay, let's join forces together. Let's all buy the timber or put a tender out together.
Totally agree.
Do you know what I mean? That
it's a much better way of doing it. And I think we've had the workshops work with 4 people. We've had them work with 15 people. Don't run a workshop, by the way, in the middle of Easter. It doesn't really work. People tend to be on holiday. Lesson learned, one chalked up for that one. But and it doesn't matter how many people, really. It still works. And that's what I love about it. It's great. And we run them at Hitchin Priory, which is a beautiful hotel, really nice grounds. Yeah, so it's a nice environment to actually do it in. So anyway, Gavin, I could talk to you for absolutely hours, because considering we've already done an hour last week,
you're sick of me.
I think we could do another few hours yet. So, but no, it's been really great having you as a guest. I've learned lots about you, which before you're just that guy on TikTok. I think you've got some lovely aims, and I think we definitely share some values.
Yeah, no, Robin, thank you very much for having me on the podcast. I mean, likewise, I'm excited to see how your workshops progress and the coaching. And so well done to you. And we had a great discussion on I'm the Gaffer, which should be released shortly. So I'm sure that a lot of the viewers and listeners will get a lot out of what you had to give us that day.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll be meeting again.
All right. Take care, Robin.
Thanks for listening to Bust and Beyond with Robin Hayhurst. Be sure to tune in next time and visit his website at robinhayhurst.com.